Welcome back. You are listening to the home of forbidden romances. Prepare yourself, because tonight's story will leave you breathless. The bell above the shop door didn't just chime. It tolled like a death knell, slicing through the heavy silence of a rainy Tuesday, signaling the end of 5 years of carefully constructed lies. I didn't even need to look up from the bouquet of white lilies I was trimming to know who had walked in. The air in the small, humidity-slicked flower shop instantly grew heavy, charged with a static electricity that made the fine hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. It was a scent I hadn't smelled since the night I fled with nothing but a go-bag and a breaking heart. A dominating, intoxicating mix of burnt sandalwood, cold steel, and rain-soaked asphalt. My hands shook, the shears slipping to nick my thumb, a bead of bright red blood blooming against the pale green stem. I froze, my instincts screaming at me to run, to hide, to do anything but look up. But my body betrayed me, locked in place by the sheer gravitational pull of the man standing in the doorway. "Hello, Julian." The voice was deeper than I remembered, roughened by years of shouting orders and perhaps, if I dared to flatter myself, years of silence. I slowly lifted my head. Cassian Vane stood there, shaking the water from a black umbrella. He looked like a god of war dressed in Italian silk. He was broader now, the lines of his jaw sharper, his eyes, that impossible shade of obsidian, colder. He took up too much space in my tiny shop, his presence blotting out the light, turning my sanctuary into a cage. "You're hard to find," Cassian said, stepping further inside. The door clicked shut behind him, locking out the sound of the city. Dead zones. Cash only. No digital footprint. For a florist, you operate like a ghost. I wanted to be left alone. I managed to whisper, my voice sounding foreign to my own ears. I gripped the counter, the marble biting into my palms. "What do you want, Cassian?" "What do I want?" He let out a low, dark chuckle that lacked any humor. He walked closer, his leather shoes silent on the wooden floorboards. He stopped right in front of the counter, looming over me. "I want to know why my Omega, the one who swore his life to me, vanished into the ether 5 years ago without a word. I want to know why you let me mourn you." My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. "We were done. You said it yourself. You said you had no room for weakness. And you decided you were the weakness?" His eyes narrowed, scanning my face, looking for the boy he used to know and the man I had become. "I was at war, Julian. I was trying to protect you from the crossfire. I didn't tell you to leave. I certainly didn't tell you to hide." "It doesn't matter now," I said, trying to summon a backbone I hadn't used in years. "I've built a life here. A quiet life. Please, just go." Cassian leaned in, his hands gripping the edge of the counter, his face inches from mine. I could smell him clearly now, the pheromones of a prime alpha, aggressive and possessive. It made my knees weak, a biological imperative fighting against my rational mind. "I don't leave what is mine," he growled low in his throat. "And you are still." "Papa." The shout came from the back room. The curtain swung open, and a small, energetic blur shot out, clutching a toy robot. Time stopped. Leo skidded to a halt near my legs, grabbing my apron. "Papa." The robot's arm fell off again. "Can you?" Leo looked up. He saw the giant stranger in the black suit. And the stranger saw him. The silence that followed was deafening. It was the sound of a guillotine blade hanging suspended in the air. Cassian stared. He stared at the boy who had my messy dark curls but possessed a pair of eyes that were an exact, terrifying mirror of his own. Obsidian black. Sharp. Intelligent. Then, Cassian inhaled. It was a sharp, jagged intake of breath. His eyes widened, shock cracking the porcelain mask of his indifference. He didn't just see the resemblance. He smelled it. The genetic marker. The undeniable biological signature that linked an alpha to his offspring. "He smells like the rain," Cassian whispered, his voice trembling for the first time. "And he smells like me." Cassian's gaze snapped from the boy to me, and the temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. The longing in his eyes vanished, replaced by a fury so cold it burned. 5 years, Cassian said, the words dripping with betrayal. "You stole my son." I stepped in front of Leo, shielding him with my body. I protected him. "You were purging the families. You were killing anyone who could be used as leverage against you. I wasn't going to let him be a pawn in your war. He is a Vane." Cassian roared, the sound vibrating the glass vases on the shelves. Leo flinched, burying his face in my leg. Cashin saw the fear in the boy's posture and visibly checked himself, forcing the monster back into its cage. He straightened his suit jacket, his expression smoothing into something terrifyingly blank. Close the shop, Julian. Cashin, please. Close. The shop. His tone brooked no argument. It was the voice of the Capo dei Capi, the head of the syndicate. You said you wanted to protect him? Fine. Then you will come with me. Because now that I've found you, my enemies will find you too. You have 10 minutes to pack a bag for the boy. Everything else, I will buy. The drive to the airfield was a blur of rain-streaked windows and suffocating silence. Leo, sensing the tension, had fallen asleep in my lap, his small thumb in his mouth. Cashin sat across from us in the back of the armored SUV, his legs crossed, watching us with the intensity of a predator watching a wounded deer. I looked out the window, watching the gray skyline of the city I'd called home recede. I had tried so hard. I had used suppressants to mask my scent, lived in a neutral territory controlled by a minor gang that didn't ask questions and paid in cash. But I had made one mistake. Last week, Leo had gotten sick, a high fever that required a specialist. I had used an old insurance card, just once. It must have flagged a system Cashin had been monitoring. He looks like you, Cashin said softly, breaking the silence. I smoothed Leo's hair. He has your temper. Does he know? He knows his father is away. That he's important. That he's dangerous. Dangerous, Cashin repeated, tasting the word like bile. Is that what you told him? That his father is a monster? I told him his father was a king. I shot back, meeting his gaze. And that kings have many enemies. Cashin looked away, staring at the partition between us and the driver. The war is over, Julian. I won. The Rossis are broken. The territory is secure. I spent 5 years burning the world down so I could make it safe for you to come back, only to realize you weren't coming back. A pang of guilt struck my chest. I didn't know. You didn't ask. The jet ride was swift, taking us from the gloomy obscurity of the north to the sprawling, neon-lit metropolis where the Vane family ruled from the shadows. We were taken directly to the penthouse of the Obsidian Tower, a fortress in the sky. Walking into the penthouse felt like stepping into a mausoleum of our past. The furniture was the same. The art on the walls was the same. Even the grand piano I used to play sat in the corner, covered in a dust sheet, like a ghost waiting to be resurrected. The East Wing is prepared for the boy, Cashin said, checking his watch. Nannies have been vetted. Guards are posted. He stays with me, I said firmly. Cashin turned, his eyes flashing. He is the heir to the Vane Empire. He needs to be protected, educated, and trained. He will sleep in the nursery. He is 5 years old, and he's never spent a night away from me. If you try to separate us, Cashin, I swear to God, I will burn this tower down myself. Cashin stared at me, a flicker of surprise crossing his face. He wasn't used to defiance. Not anymore. You've grown claws, little flower. I'm a mother, I corrected him. It changes you. He sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. Fine. He stays in your room. But you stay in mine. My breath hitched. Cashin, we can't just. You are my omega, he cut in, his voice dropping an octave, resonating in my chest. You ran. You hid. You lied. But the mark on your neck hasn't faded, Julian. You are still mine. And you have 5 years of lost time to make up for. The first week was a war of attrition. I was a prisoner in a gilded cage, surrounded by luxury, but denied freedom. Leo, however, was in paradise. He didn't understand the undercurrents of tension. To him, this was a castle, and the scary man in the suit was the king who bought him every Lego set in existence. I watched from the balcony doors as Cashin tried to interact with him. It was awkward at first. Cashin, the man who could dismantle a cartel with a phone call, was terrified of a 5-year-old. I saw Cashin kneeling on the expensive Persian rug, holding a plastic dinosaur. No, Leo instructed, his brow furrowed seriously. The T-Rex is the boss. He doesn't share. Sounds familiar, Cashin muttered dryly. He eats the other dinosaurs if they don't listen, Leo added. Cashin looked up and caught me watching. For a second, the mask slipped. He looked vulnerable. He looked like a father trying to understand the piece of his soul walking around outside his body. The turning point came on a Thursday. I was in the music room. I had finally pulled the sheet off the piano. My fingers, rusty but eager, found the keys. I began to play a nocturne, a melancholy piece that had been my favorite years ago. The music flowed through the penthouse, filling the empty spaces. I didn't hear him enter. I only felt him. Cashin stood by the piano, a glass of whiskey in his hand. He listened until the final note faded into the air. "I missed that," he said quietly. "I tried to hire musicians. I fired them all. They didn't play it like you." "Cashin." I stood up, feeling the distance between us shrinking. "Why did you really bring us back? Is it just about the air? Is it just about possession?" He set the glass down and walked around the piano. He didn't touch me, but he was close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from his suit. "Do you know what it feels like to lose a limb, Julian?" he asked softly. "You wake up every morning reaching for something that isn't there. The phantom pain never goes away. When you left, the silence in this house was louder than the gunfire in the streets." He reached out, his fingers hovering over the bite mark on the junction of my neck, the mating mark he had given me 6 years ago. "I didn't bring you back because of the boy," he confessed, his voice rough. "I would have burned the city to find you even if there was no child. I brought you back because I can't breathe without you." Tears pricked my eyes. "I was scared, Cashin. You were becoming so cold. I thought you wouldn't want us." "I am cold," he admitted. "To the world, I am ice. But for you, I have only ever been fire." He closed the distance, his lips crashing onto mine. It wasn't gentle. It was desperate, a starving man finally finding sustenance. I melted into him, my hands gripping the lapels of his jacket. It felt like coming home. It felt like the storm was finally over. But peace in our world is never free. The attack happened 2 days later. The remnants of the Rossi family, desperate and cornered, made a suicide run at the tower. The alarms blared at 3 a.m., a sound that triggers a primal panic. Cashin was out of bed before my eyes were fully open. He was already moving, pulling a handgun from the bedside safe. "Get Leo," he commanded, his voice devoid of emotion. "Safe room. Now." I didn't argue. I scrambled out of bed, rushing to the adjoining room. Leo was sitting up, rubbing his eyes, confused by the sirens. I scooped him up, burying his face in my shoulder. "Daddy," Leo murmured. "It's a game, baby," I whispered, my heart slamming against my ribs. "Just a loud game." We met Cashin in the hallway. His security detail was already engaging targets in the elevator lobby. Gunfire erupted, loud, cracking sounds that shattered the expensive vases and tore through the drywall. "Go." Cashin shoved me toward the hidden panel in the wall. "Cashin, come with us." I screamed, looking back. "I have to hold the line," he snarled, turning back toward the chaos. He looked back at me one last time, his eyes blazing. "I lost you once. I will die before I let anyone take you again." The heavy steel door of the panic room slid shut, sealing Leo and me inside. We sat in the dark, illuminated only by the emergency lights. I held my son, rocking him, singing quietly to drown out the muffled sounds of war happening just outside. It lasted an hour, an eternity. Then, silence. I waited, clutching a small knife I had found in the emergency supplies. The keypad beeped. The hydraulic hiss of the door opening made me flinch. Cashin stood there. His white shirt was stained red, some of it his, most of it not. He was breathing hard, sweat matting his hair to his forehead. He looked terrifying. He looked beautiful. He dropped the gun on the floor and fell to his knees. "Cashin." I rushed forward, checking him. A bullet had grazed his arm, and another had caught his side, but he was alive. "Are you safe?" he wheezed, grabbing my face with bloody hands, smearing crimson on my cheek. "Is he safe?" "We're safe," I sobbed, pulling him into a hug. "We're here." Leo, brave little Leo, walked over. He looked at the blood, then at his father. He didn't cry. He reached out and patted Cashin's head. "You beat the bad dinosaurs, Papa." Cashin let out a choked laugh, wincing in pain. He pulled Leo into the embrace, burying his face in the boy's small chest. "Yeah, kid. I beat the bad dinosaurs." The recovery was slow. The tower was repaired, the glass replaced, the blood scrubbed away. But something fundamental had shifted. Cashin wasn't just the Don anymore. And I wasn't just the runaway. We were a pack. A month later, We stood on the balcony, watching the sunset over the city. Leo was inside, playing the piano, smashing the keys with more enthusiasm than skill, but Cashin smiled every time he heard a discordant note. Cashin wrapped his arms around my waist from behind, resting his chin on my shoulder. The wound on his side was healing, leaving a scar to match the others. "They're calling you the Iron Queen now," Cashin murmured against my ear. "Because you stood over me while the medic stitched me up and threatened to kill him if his hand shook. Someone has to keep you in line," I replied, leaning back into his warmth. "I don't want to be in line." He kissed the mark on my neck, sending shivers down my spine. "I just want to be here. With you. With our son." I turned in his arms, looking up into those obsidian eyes. They weren't cold anymore. They were warm, filled with a depth of emotion he only showed to me. "I'm not running anymore, Cashin." "Good," he growled, tightening his grip. "Because I burned the running shoes." I laughed, pulling his head down for a kiss. The scent of rain and sandalwood surrounded me. No longer a memory, no longer a threat, but the scent of home. And that is how the viper tamed the wolf. If you enjoyed seeing Cashin burn the world down just to get his family back, destroy that like button. And tell me in the comments, would you forgive a husband who scared you into hiding if he proved he would die to protect you? I'll be reading your answers. Subscribe for the next chapter. Until then, prompt image. Prompt, masterpiece, best quality, high-res, 1.2. Korean manhwa style, semi-realistic, digital art, 2 men, BL, yaoi, man 1. Tall mafia boss, sharp black suit, unbuttoned collar, messy black hair, obsidian eyes, holding a small boy, protective expression, blood on white shirt sleeve. Man 2, smaller frame, soft brown hair, wearing oversized beige sweater, hugging man 1 from the side. Tearful relief, holding a first aid kit, child. Small boy, black hair, holding a toy robot, looking up at man 1. Background is a high-tech panic room, dim emergency red lighting, metallic walls, dramatic shadows, emotional atmosphere, cinematic composition, intricate details.